Right, so news broke last night that South Africa had filed a case with the International Criminal Court, International Courts of Justice, against Israel for committing the crime of genocide under the terms of the Genocide Convention, of which both countries are, of course, signatories. It is incumbent on all signatory countries to uphold it, but it's taken South Africa to actually do it, showing on one hand either how little other countries consider the importance of preventing genocide, or how afraid of Israel they might happen to be over that. South Africa, of all nations, I think, though, being the ones to go first in effect, others might find their balls now to follow, sends a powerful message given the history of apartheid in their country. They, of all people, to my mind, would be the ones to recognise that same apartheid when they see it elsewhere. They have long pointed it out in the Middle East. So yes, it is great that this has happened and people can speculate about what might happen next and what the consequences there now might be. But if that is as far as your train of thought is going, then you're missing not only the point of the submission to the International Court of Justice, but also the detail. Because the case South Africa put together is harrowing. Should not only get people talking about Palestine and Israel once again, but also be horrified by the detail of that submission and what exactly South Africa are accusing Israel of. What people there have actually said, actually done, and the actual crimes themselves that Israel stands accused of. Right, so South Africa have submitted a case to the International Court of Justice under the terms of the Genocide Convention against Israel for committing the act of genocide. This is dominating the news in some quarters, though sadly if you're watching the BBC you'll have heard more something along the lines of Israel has reacted furiously to South Africa filing an ICJ case alleging Israel has committed genocidal acts. Nice of the BBC to put prominence on Israel's reaction rather than South Africa's action, but really why should any of us be surprised? However, an awful lot of the news coverage is reaction. A lot of videos coming out today by other content creators will be reaction stuff too. But that misses what exactly South Africa's done. What are they actually accusing Israel of? What is their case? What have they submitted? Well, I shall tell you, though forgive me for being brief on this myself, because South Africa's submission focused solely, incidentally, on events since October the 7th, but set against that historical backdrop of 75 years of apartheid, 56 years of occupation, and 16 years of blockade against Gaza, runs to 86 pages. That's 86 pages of Israeli atrocity in 11 weeks, produced by one nation. So I apologise in advance for trying to keep things brief here, successfully or unsuccessfully, you be the judge of that. Highlights, essentially, if you like. But my goodness, if you can find time, do read the full submission, because it isn't getting the attention it should be. For a start, not only is South Africa taking Israel to court, but they want an expedited hearing as well, meaning if other countries want to make submissions, they need to get their asses in gear. They also want the court to call on Israel to immediately cease their attacks on Palestine. Their submission saying, South Africa requests the President of the Court to protect the Palestinian people in Gaza by calling upon Israel immediately to halt all military attacks that constitute or give rise to violations of the Genocide Convention, pending the holding of such hearing, so as to enable any order the Court may make on the request for the indication of provisional measures to have its appropriate effects. To that end, the court should order Israel to cease killing and cause serious mental and bodily harm to Palestinian people in Gaza, to cease the deliberate infliction of conditions of life calculated to bring about their physical destruction as a group, to prevent and punish direct and public incitement to genocide, and to rescind related policies and practices, including regarding the restriction on aid and the issuing of evacuation directives. But what have they specifically accused Israel of? What atrocities have they listed? Who is behind these instances? These all matter, because ultimately whatever you've read about or seen on social media or in the mainstream news up until now, it is what South Africa have submitted. It is what they can evidence that matters. And in this again, I feel I'm doing this document something of a disservice, because I can't possibly cover everything it does. Some of this may be familiar to you, having heard it before. Much might be new. On the matter of Palestinians killed in Gaza, South Africa has said over 21,110 Palestinians are reported to have been killed since Israel began its military assault on Gaza, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, at least 70% of whom are believed to be women and children. An additional estimated 7,780 people, including at least 4,700 women and children, are reported missing, presumed dead under the rubble of destroyed buildings, dying slow deaths, or decomposing in the streets where they were killed. Israel's blockage of adequate fuel imports, its destruction of infrastructure, and the communication blackouts it imposes severely hamper rescue attempts. As of the 8th of December 2023, only one rescue vehicle was reportedly operational in the whole of Gaza, with survivors forced to try and dig for survivors with their bare hands. The level of Israel's killing is so extensive that bodies are being buried in mass graves, often unidentified. Nowhere is safe in Gaza, as the United Nations Secretary General and many other United Nations experts have now made clear to the international community. Palestinians in Gaza have been killed in their homes, in places where they sought shelter, in hospitals, in UNRWA schools, in churches, in mosques, and as they tried to find food and water for their families, they have been killed if they failed to evacuate, in the places which they fled, and even while they attempted to flee along Israeli-declared safe routes. Reports are multiplying of Israeli soldiers performing summary executions, including of multiple members of the same family, men, women and older people. One such account is the reported execution in Gaza City of at least 11 male members of the Annan family and their relatives, boys and men said to have been separated out by Israeli soldiers and shot in front of their family, before the women and children were then attacked. There are also reports of unarmed people, including Israeli hostages, being shot dead on sight despite posing no threat, including while waving white flags. Attacks on Palestinian homes and residential blocks account for a significant number of the dead. Israel is said to be dropping dumb, i.e. unguided bombs on Gaza, as well as heavy bombs weighing up to 2,000 pounds, which have a predicted lethal radius of up to 360 metres, and are expected to cause severe injury and damage as far as 800 metres from the point of impact. This weaponry is being deployed in one of the most densely populated areas in the world, where approximately 1 in every 100 people has now been killed. Some Israeli strikes on Palestinian homes and refugee camps have killed upwards of 110 Palestinians. An estimated 1,779 Palestinian families in Gaza have lost multiple family members, and hundreds of multi-generational families have been killed in their entirety with no remaining survivors. Mothers, fathers, children, siblings, grandparents, aunts, cousins, often all killed together. By the 7th of November 2023, 312 Palestinian families in Gaza had lost over 10 members each. Numerous Palestinian families have lost upwards of 70 members each. The level of mortality in Palestinian families is such that medics in Gaza have had to coin a new acronym, WCNSF, meaning Wounded Child, No Surviving Family. Doctors, journalists, teachers, academics and other professionals are also being killed at wholly unprecedented rates. To date, Israel has killed over 311 doctors, nurses and other health workers, including doctors and ambulance drivers killed on duty. 103 journalists, amounting to over 1 per day, and more than 73% of the total number of journalists and media workers killed globally in 2023. 40 civil defence workers responsible for helping to dig victims out of the rubble killed while on duty, and over 209 teachers and educational staff. 144 United Nations employees have also been killed, the highest number of aid workers killed in UN history in such a short time. It is estimated that it will take years to recover the remains of people from beneath the rubble, and that the costly technical process will not result in the identification of each body. In addition to being killed by Israeli weaponry, Palestinians in Gaza are also at immediate risk of death by starvation, dehydration and disease as a result of the ongoing siege by Israel. The insufficient aid and being allowed through to the Palestinian population, and the extreme difficulties in distributing such limited aid that is permitted to enter the territory due to the decimation of Gaza's infrastructure in Israel's military attacks. These are just a handful of the examples included. This just covers the fatalities as well, incidentally. There are further sections on injuries, on damage to mental health, on the forced expulsions, on depriving people of food and access to clean water, access to shelter, access to hygiene, access to medical assistance, the destruction of Palestinian life, as the document calls it, meaning public infrastructure and homes. Here's an example of something I had not been aware of, which was Israeli acts intended to prevent Palestinian births. As set out above, Israel's actions are impacting Palestinian women and children in Gaza especially severely, with 70% of those killed estimated to be women and children. 2 mothers are estimated to be killed every hour in Gaza. Over 7,729 children were estimated to have been killed by the 11th of December 2023 alone. And at least 4,700 other children are reported missing, believed to be buried under the rubble. There are multiple eyewitness accounts of pregnant women being killed by Israeli soldiers, including while trying to access healthcare. It's just morally depraved. I couldn't believe what I was reading earlier. But inevitably, we have to move on to those pulling the strings behind the actions of the IDF here, and what they are saying and what they are doing that's promoting this. Expressions of genocidal intent in the legal parlance of this document. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. On the 7th of October 2023, in a televised address by the government press office, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised to operate forcefully everywhere. On the 13th of October 2023, he confirmed that we are striking our enemies with unprecedented might. On the 15th of October 2023, when Israeli airstrikes had already killed over 2,670 Palestinians, including 724 children, the Prime Minister stated that Israeli soldiers understand the scope of the mission and stand ready to defeat the bloodthirsty monsters who have risen against Israel to destroy us. On the 16th of October 2023, in a formal address to the Israeli Knesset, he described the situation as a struggle between the children of light and the children of darkness, between humanity and the law of the jungle. A dehumanizing theme to which he returned to on various occasions, including on the 3rd of November 2023, in a letter to Israeli soldiers and officers published on the platform X, formerly Twitter. The letter asserted that this is the war between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. We will not let up on our mission until the light overcomes the darkness. The good will defeat the extreme evil that threatens us and the entire world. The Israeli Prime Minister also returned to the theme in his Christmas message, stating, "We're facing monsters who murdered children in front of their parents. This is a battle not only of Israel against these barbarians, it's a battle of civilization against barbarism." On the 28th of October 2023, as Israeli forces prepared their land invasion of Gaza, the Prime Minister invoked the biblical story of the total destruction of Amalek by the Israelites, stating, "You must remember what Amalek has done to you, says our Holy Bible, and we do remember." The Prime Minister referred again to Amalek in the letter sent on the 3rd of November 2023 to Israeli soldiers and officers. The relevant biblical passage reads as follows: "Now go, attack Amalek and proscribe all that belongs to him. Spare no one, but kill alike men and women, infants and sucklings, oxen and sheep, camels and asses." The President of Israel. On the 12th of October 2023, President Isaac Herzog made clear that Israel was not distinguishing between militants and civilians in Gaza, stating in a press conference to foreign media in relation to Palestinians in Gaza, over 1 million of whom are children, "It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. It's not true this rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved. It's absolutely not true. And we will fight until we break their backbone." On the 15th of October 2023, echoing the words of Prime Minister Netanyahu, the President told foreign media that we will uproot evil so that there will be good for the entire region and the world. The Israeli President is one of many Israelis to have handwritten messages on bombs to be dropped on Gaza. The Israeli Minister of Defense. On the 9th of October 2023, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, in an Israeli Army situation update, advised that Israel was imposing a complete siege on Gaza. No electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals and we are acting accordingly. He also informed troops on the Gaza border that he had released all the restraints, stating in terms that Gaza won't return to what it was before. We will eliminate everything. If it doesn't take one day, it will take a week. It will take weeks or even months. We will reach all places. He further announced that Israel was moving to a full-scale response and that he had removed every restriction on Israeli forces. Israeli Minister for National Security. On the 10th of November 2023, Itamar Ben-Gvir clarified the government's position in a televised address, stating, "To be clear, when we say that Hamas should be destroyed, It also means those who celebrate, those who support, and those who hand out candy. They're all terrorists, and they should also be destroyed. Israel's Minister of Energy and Infrastructure, tweeting on the 13th of October 2023, Israel Katz stated, "All the civilian population in Gaza is ordered to leave immediately. We will win. They will not receive a drop of water or a single battery until they leave the world." On the 12th of October, he tweeted, "Humanitarian aid to Gaza. No electrical switch will be turned on, no water hydrant will be opened, and no fuel truck will enter until the Israeli abductees are returned home. Humanitarianism for humanitarianism, and no one will preach us morality." Israeli Minister of Finance. On the 8th of October 2023, Bezalel Smotrich stated at a meeting of the Israeli cabinet that we need to deal a blow that hasn't been seen in 50 years and take down Gaza. Israeli Minister of Heritage. On the 1st of November 2023, Amichai Eliyahu posted on Facebook, "The north of the Gaza Strip, more beautiful than ever. Everything is blown up and flattened. Simply a pleasure for the eyes. We must talk about the day after. In my mind, we will hand over lots to all those who fought for Gaza over the years and to those evicted from Gush Katif, a former Israeli settlement." He later argued against humanitarian aid, as we wouldn't hand the Nazis humanitarian aid, and there is no such thing as uninvolved civilians in Gaza. He also posited a nuclear attack on the Gaza Strip. Israel's Minister of Agriculture. On the 11th of November 2023, Avi Dichter, in a televised interview, recalled the Nakba of 1948, in which over 80% of the Palestinian population of the new Israeli state was forced from or fled their homes, stating that we are now actually rolling out the Gaza Nakba. Deputy Speaker of the Knesset and member of the Foreign Affairs and Security Committee. On the 7th of October 2023, Nissim Vaturi tweeted that now we all have one common goal, erasing the Gaza Strip from the face of the earth. Those who are unable will be replaced. I could go on and on and on, because this document does. There's example after example, and these are just the Israeli politicians. Never mind what armed forces personnel have said, which is also included in this submission by South Africa. As I was reading through this document this morning with horror, I literally felt nauseous. I had shivers running down my spine. I cannot rationalise or fathom how one set of human beings can do any of this to another, can act as they have, can talk as they do. It is so unnatural to me. Yet this is normal life for so many Israelis, so many Palestinians. And you only need to listen to some of the Israeli leaders or watch some of the more offensive videos put out by Zionists on social media to see they seem to cheer this on. For as long as Israel remains untouchable, perhaps it's little wonder they believe they are in the right, despite what they are doing. What South Africa have done here and now, and hopefully will be joined by others too, is historic. It has to matter. This has to count for something now. If the UN is going to consistently fail due to US vetoes and the like, then a court of law, the ultimate arbiter, has to act. What is written in this court submission, what this document details, it isn't just words on a page. These are actual people doing these things, saying these things to oppress and frankly wipe out, for that is what genocide is after all, and we should say it. Wipe out another people. Well, we criticise governments for inaction. This is the very real consequences of that. We can be indifferent when we read news stories. They don't affect us. It isn't always easy to relate in our own safe Western world lives. But imagine the things the likes of Netanyahu and Herzog and Smotrich and Ben-Gvir are saying. We're saying that about you and your family to you. That is why this move by South Africa is so important. It has to be about more than just another legal matter. This is about humanity itself. So many people have said recently that they wondered how the Nazis, for example, ever came to power. Those of us born well after the events of World War II, of course. And when you see atrocity getting ignored repeatedly, and those committing them becoming further emboldened because of that, suddenly it starts to dawn on you. Israel's reaction to this submission? Well, South Africa are committing blood libel, no less. Bothered much, are they? Heck yes. So they should be. We live in an era when we're more aware of things happening in the world than ever before. So that makes it all the more unforgivable when stuff like this still happens and nothing gets done about it. Be glad for this move by South Africa. Cheer them, hail them, but for God's sake keep at the forefront of your mind why they are doing it. And demand your own leaders, especially here in the UK, with all the support for Israel they've offered, both in the government and on the opposition benches, to support this and ask, as signatories to the Genocide Convention as well, as we are here in the UK, why the hell haven't you done anything about this yet? I'll single out the US again here, who for the second time, on the same day as South Africa brought this case against Israel, have bypassed Congress again to send another $147 million worth of arms to Israel. You can only imagine Netanyahu's reaction behind closed doors at this case being brought, though. But a swipe at him, courtesy of Turkey's president, recently triggered a Twitter spat. And if you'd like to know more about that, how thin-skinned the man is, how much he doesn't like being held to account when he isn't held to account nearly enough, then you need to watch this video next. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.